Joined this evening by Congressman Bob Latta as we get ready for the lame duck session of Congress as you get started here. Do you realistically think anything is going to get done as you head back to Washington?
Well, realistically, right now we're supposed to have 2 weeks left, and we have got to get something done. The tax cuts have got to be done, or we're going to watch all these. One of the greatest tax cut increase, or pardon me, the tax increase in history is going to occur. We have the death tax that's going to roll all the way back to where it was 10 years ago. And, you know, the biggest problem that we have is this Congress hasn't done anything for the last 2 years because we haven't even passed a budget for this year.
Right.
So we have got to go back and get something done, because now they're talking about wanting to do about $1 trillion in an omnibus bill where, you know, it's just like throwing things together. No, we can't do that. The American people have said through an election, no. And the number one thing we got to get done is work on these tax cuts, because if these tax cuts don't get extended.
You're talking about the Bush tax cuts,
the
right?
01, 03. We're going to watch the American people have the largest increase in taxes they've ever seen in their lives.
So what do you think this new Congress has now said? Do you think the new Republican blood that has come in there has been kind of a message to Washington that they're not looking for this?
Well, you know, I think what you just asked is a perfectly good question, because I talked to a friend of mine who was defeated, a Democrat from out west. And we were talking the night that everybody got back after the elections. And he said, you know what? He'd been to a Democrat caucus, and he said they still don't get it. Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, you know, and President Obama don't get it. They did not hear a word that the American people said. And this guy, if you would have seen his voting record, you would have sworn he was a Republican.
So what do you think? What do you think John Boehner brings to the table now? Yeah. It's going to be night and day. It almost feels like the Nancy Pelosi. What do you think he's going to bring to the table?
Several things. And I think, first of all, the House is going to work. And when I mean work, it's going to function. You know, none of this stuff where we sit around and they say we're going to be voting at 2 o'clock and it's 4:30 or 5 o'clock before we ever get there. The committees are going to start working again. John was a chairman of a committee, so he knows that a committee has to work. You know, we've watched what's happened over the last several years where the speaker comes up with her plan, and it kind of goes to the committee chair. The people don't show up to the committees in a lot of cases because they think, well, why show up? Because they've already got it worked out. And I think the committee's going to work. We're going to actually see input coming in from the American people, because that's where you start hearing things, is when the American people are saying, okay, we're going to be coming to these committees, you're going to have to listen to us.
Okay, but what about Washington? Will Washington be in gridlock with the president being a Democrat, Senate still on the Democratic side, and the House being Republicans? Can anything get done?
Well, I think, number one, I think the American people have sent a word out to the Democrats is that they've done way too much. They'd spent way too much. The deficit had gone up $5 trillion under Nancy Pelosi and her watch as Speaker in 4 years. So I think what the American people have said is, you know what, number one, let's put the brakes on. Let's start finding out. None of this stuff rolling out a bill or a 300-page amendment to a bill at 3 o'clock in the morning and having it on the floor the next day.
Right.
You know, people have got to know what's in these bills. And so I think what the American people first said was, slow it down. Let's find out what's in these legislation. Because another thing that John Boehner said is we're going to have a 72-hour rule where things are going to cool off to the American people, and we can actually read a bill now.
Right. Digest it. All right, Congressman Bob Latta, we thank you very much for your time. Well, have the best of the holiday we wish.
Thank you.
And that's your talk back.